Ladies and gentlemen, on the occasion of the first International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, I'm delighted to welcome you to the Stakeholder Dialogue.
It is my pleasure to welcome you here today on behalf of the European Food Banks Federation.
The most recent estimates show that 20% of food produced in the EU is lost or wasted. And at the same time, 33 million people cannot afford a quality meal every second day. There is an urgent need to redesign our food system, made even clearer by the ongoing pandemic.
Food donation is a beneficial solution. It increases access to food, protects and fosters the resilience of the food supply chain, and reduces the environmental impact of food waste on our planet.
The EU food donation guidelines aim to facilitate compliance of providers and recipients of surplus food with relevant EU legal requirements and promote a common interpretation by member states of the EU rules on the redistribution of surplus food.
We have the great opportunity to strengthen already existing collaborations and recognize food donation and the activity of food banks not as philanthropic option, but as an integral part of the food distribution system.
Surplus food should feed people, not go in the bin. There is no time to waste.
All Nordic countries have food waste prevention high on their agenda. They are all members of the EU platform, but they have approached the issue from slightly different angles over the past decade. While Sweden started out with a governmental approach looking into food waste in public canteens and research on waste from the primary sector, Denmark was primarily engaged through the work of an NGO, Stop Spill av Mat, led by Selina Juel, that encouraged both private sector and government to get involved. In Norway, the food industry took the initiative to both monitor and reduce food waste with Matvett. In 2017, the government, with the entire food value chain, decided to take further action in the food waste challenge. And the aim is to halve the food waste in kilo per capita by 2030, which is in line with the SDG 12.3. Due to the negotiated agreement, food donation is much higher on the governmental agenda and has led to a financial support that has made it possible to establish a network of food banks in Norway.
Nordic food banks have many things in common, but they also work in distinctive and creative ways, both because of the relationships they have with the food industry, but also because of the different policies in their countries.
The first food bank opened in Oslo in 2013. We are now 7 food banks, and last year we redistributed about 2,600 tons of surplus food. We receive most of our surplus food from the producers and the wholesalers. Then the charities come to us to pick up the food, what they need, and then they give it to the people in need.
We run 8 food banks. We redistribute approximately 1,800 tons of surplus food every year. We hand out food bags, about 1,200 food bags a week. And we run social supermarkets in Stockholm. And of course, we serve meals in our social operations. And it's more than 2,500 meals every day that we serve.
7% of our food is surplus food. And primarily it's from producers and wholesalers. We have 3 locations here in Denmark covering most of the country. And our recipients are only social and humanitarian organizations. We will approximately handle 1,300 tons this year.
When it comes to Findus Nordics, we have been a partner with the Nordic Food Bank since 2017, but we really see this as a long-term partnership of the areas that we tend to focus on. Information campaigns, educating relevant stakeholders, that could be schools, for example, or it could just be general PR campaigns, educating the public about food waste. The second area is food donations, supporting people in need, and that area has actually increased during the year in line with the pandemic. Also financial donations, we made a huge contribution to Norwegian Matsentralen during the spring when we saw that kind of demand rose. And then partnership through sponsoring and freezing capacity, just so we can make the partnership even more efficient.
My mother used to say to me, waste not, want not. And that's a good motto in life, isn't it? But particularly appropriate here for this discussion, because we want to reduce our waste as a company, but at the same time, we want to make as much of that waste as possible available for people who are in want or in need. And it fits in with our sustainability pledge, again, which is in line with the theme of this meeting, is of making products that are better for you and for the planet. So obviously food waste is a key part of the work that we're doing within sustainability. And here you see the different aspects, but particularly food waste. And we're pleased to say that we actually achieved a 50% reduction of our food waste compared with 2015 through better planning, improvement projects in production, doing things right the first time. That's something we will continue to focus on. But some food waste is inevitable if we are to ensure that quality that our loyal consumers demand, expect and demand. And this could be due to shelf life issues, it could be minor quality defects. So we're very pleased to have this cooperation with Matsentralen from the start. And I would also like to mention that it's very good when Cristiano and Paul actually visit our factories and talk to key workers in production, in the warehouse, in the laboratory. All these, it creates awareness and enthusiasm, as we can see here in this picture. Cristiano is discussing some dented mayonnaise tubes with dog fin in our factory in Fredrikstad. This kind of awareness and enthusiasm is very important, because then these workers are looking to see ways in which they can collect, they can store, evaluate and communicate with their Matsentralen to come and collect these products. So I would say it's not a win-win situation for us, it's a win-win-win-win situation, because we help people in need, but we also create internal pride in our organization. We are able to reduce food wastage, which is good for our sustainability report, and we can actually save money in less waste collection fees.
Really inspiring to see how engaged your companies are. And it seems like you both have systems and processes in place to deal with that. What would you tell other food actors that maybe aren't as engaged with food waste as a challenge to inspire them to cooperate more with local food banks?
I mean, if you're part of the Nordics countries, I think, all the arrows are showing in that direction anyway. Sweden and Norway already decided that they would halve the waste. So I think it's very natural to follow that lead. But I think this was mentioned by Mills, is that it creates a lot of pride in the company. I think it's important that you get the whole organization to actually get engaged in this. And it's a lot about communication and sort of linking it to the purpose of the company. And also, I mean, I'm very passionate about this, but what I was very surprised to see is it's actually cost us more to destroy the food than to donate it. So that's a very good reason for engaging and using it for those in need. Also to see the food banks as partners in this, they actually help us to help others. It's more of a partnership And it's not only about sort of donating and getting rid of things, but actually helping others help others. So,
yes, fantastic. Paul, would you like to share some of your thoughts?
I totally agree. It actually costs quite a lot of money to get rid of food waste. So there's obviously a potential there to save money, and that could be a start for some companies. But there's obviously many more advantages with it, as I mentioned. And I think, I think once you get it started, it's very important that you find the people down in the factory who are actually going to work with this.
I have a question which any of you can answer, but there's a question from the audience about food security and quality. Who is really responsible for that? Is it the food supplier, the food bank, or the charity organization that's actually donating the food?
I can answer for Norway at least. Until the best before date or the use by date, it's the supplier who is responsible for the quality of the product. We keep the product after the best before date, then it's our responsibility that we give products that are of good, safe quality.
Is that how you see the responsibility in Sweden and Denmark?
I think I would like to add that we are actually trying to buy all the goods that we receive from the donors. And that is because that we like to have the ownership of the food. And if you have the ownership, then we have the responsibility of the food. And when we deliver the goods to the receivers, then they will be responsible for the food. It's actually like if a normal company was running it, and that's the perspective that we have.
And how do you agree on that, on how much you should pay for it if it can be donated?
We will pay about 1 Danish kroner or something like that, just a symbolic amount. So that's close to nothing. Yeah.
But then by law, you're officially responsible.
Yeah.
And is that an agreement you had with the food companies to ensure that if there was a safety issue, it wouldn't be their responsibility?
Yes, and it's also about taxes and so on. But I think it's really easy to use this system because the logistics setup in the food producing companies is actually all the software and so on is turned into selling something. So they are actually just selling it with a big discount. So it's quite easy. They don't have to do anything else than they normally do.
Okay, interesting. And Anne, in Sweden, you had something to add?
Well, it's the same. We don't buy the food, but we have the responsibility. And then whenever we receive a big volume of a product with expiring date, we always have a dialogue with the producer for how long can we continue to distribute this pasta or this frozen product after the best before date. So then we involve the producer in such cases.
It's important that the laboratory is involved when we have these meetings with Cristiano and Aubert. They come and they talk about these products. We went through each type, we saw dented mayonnaise tube, what can they accept and what, like allergens, these types of things. So we have a clear set of rules, what we can donate and what we can't donate. So the responsibility is also ours to make sure we don't donate anything that could be a food safety issue. And also if we have to recall the product, then we have to make sure that we alert them the same way we would alert all the food chains.
So we're hearing now from Findus and from Mills companies that really understand the benefits that it brings and also the value they can create by donating food. But now a question to the food banks is, how do you encourage other companies to donate food? Is that something you struggle with? Or is the quantity of food that you receive always enough?
I think it's always a struggle to gain enough food. I think and it's always a worry. My job is to gain 10 tons of food every week. So it's always some kind of a fight. And I think that we should be better to find more food producers. I think Anna and Paul have some very good arguments for others to join us. And I think we should somehow do something that they will be inspired by, the two of you.
And Anne and Cristiano, do you struggle to have enough food suppliers? And do you have ideas of how you could bring in more food suppliers?
Absolutely, we struggle big time with getting our hands on enough food, especially these days. We know that we need to about double the amount of food that we redistribute. And one of the strongest tools that we have is the negotiated agreement that Anne-Marie talked about earlier. In this agreement, they commit to find a solution of donating surplus food. So I think that is one of the strongest tools we have and can facilitate.
And
yeah, I think we can definitely do more to get more collaboration with food companies. We are not that known in Sweden yet. It's quite new with this national network as well. We know that the food industry really wants a national partner in this, because you have the industries and the production sites all over the country. And so it's really good that we now have the network, and we have the 3 big food banks in Malmö, Gothenburg, and Stockholm, where we can receive quite large volumes, because it's also, we need to be able to receive these large volumes if we should be an interesting partner to the food industry.
The cooperation we have with Mills, and what we did with Mills and Paul at their factory in Fredrikstad, and also what we're now trying to do with Findus and Orkla, I think that is the way to go.
And that's what I've challenged you to make models that others can use for how to actually communicate with the companies in order to get the food from them to the food banks. I think we need to see synergies and make models so that we can upscale how we work, what the best practice.
And one question related to that, Anne-Marie, is we heard about your agreement. What is the main arguments for food companies to sign up to your agreement?
Well, it's a way of setting a target. It's the way of helping them in monitoring and reporting their food waste. It's a way of being ahead of possible regulations. We know that we have a law coming up in Norway. We don't know exactly when. The corona situation has set everything back, but to be ahead, to show that you take responsibility.
How do you ensure you're distributing healthy food to people in food hunger? And this is a question to all 6.
Of course, we are mostly interested in healthy food, but at the same time, we also want to be able to offer candy on a Friday night or some chocolate in the middle of the week. I mean, we all enjoy that, even people living in food poverty. But of course, then we want there to be a balance.
We're running out of time. It's been a really, really interesting discussion. So thank you, Jesper, Anne-Marie, Paul, Anna, and Cristiano for sharing insights on how you're working in your markets. It's fantastic what you're doing locally, and if it can inspire other markets to work in smarter ways, or you could share best practices, that's even more exciting.